Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's July the 7th, and this week is already over. Of course, we'll trade tomorrow, but no chart lesson. So when I say this week's over, basically I'm talking about the videos. When you have a short holiday or a long holiday weekend that shortens the week, it seems like we just started yesterday, but it's already Thursday, and I'll come in and trade for an hour or two in the morning, and I'm cutting out of here. So um, anyway, today was a good day. It was we had a nice rally in the overnight and the early part of the morning, but really for the majority of the day it was all downhill. Really to the close, that's when it bounced. Or actually, I say the close, but really to our 2 p.m. cutoff period, and then it bounced. It actually doesn't close till here. So really, the market changed almost closed almost unchanged because this is where we closed yesterday, and then we closed around 292 today, and we closed yesterday around 290, or I'm sorry, 2093, and today we closed around 2092. So the market really, all that movement, it basically closed unchanged. So, um, but this was a nice trend down. Lots of shorts in here. This really just carries over till later in the day. It's kind of hard to get that squared up. But you can see that, and it really highs are right there. That was what we were looking at early on. We had a little failed breakout, so it was a nice trading range here early on. Um, this thing broke through and took off, and it was all uphill until we just found this too much resistance up here. There's a larger two-tiered channel, the brown or reddish looking color. It doesn't really help you a lot. It really kind of helped you with these two trades, but outside of that, um, it really didn't help you a lot. It might have helped you down here because once you drug this down and found the midline, which really it's hard to find the midline until you find the other side, and you really just you could have used this low, this low, this low. I usually just start moving along until it finally starts bouncing, and once we got a couple of bounces, so it really didn't help you today. Um, and one thing that tells you it's right is when I drug this midline into place about halfway. Look at that gap right there. I don't know if you can see that, but I see that over and over and over, and that always tells me I got my line in the right place. It's amazing how. Don't ask me why it does that, but it does. It's kind of no man's land in there, and I guess people are either buying on either side or selling on either side, and I guess it's thin in there and it just gaps over it. Um, I've got some theories, but I really don't. It doesn't really matter. People send me little emails here and there telling me what they think, but it doesn't really matter. So, but let's back out a little more, talk about the trades, and wrap it up. It's already 6:30 here. But yeah, early on, this looks like a range, and if you move it all the way over to what you're looking at in real time, you can see that looks like a range there. It's very obvious, and everything's just kind of going sideways. You can see it there, and we had a that's real clear. It's real obvious where the highs and lows are at, and then we've had a breakout, and I didn't measure it, but I can eyeball it and tell you that it is real close to a measured move, and you can see that. And there it is. So once we got that measured move up, you'd want to come back down. But when we went on through, it just rocketed on through, so it didn't really matter. This turns out to be most of the range, and then later in the day, we got right back in there. We did continue on down, but we were in there for a good while. But anyway, when I came in, we're in this range, and you can see it working sideways there. And notice this little, let me get that out of the way. This little channel coming down. You get a close outside. You actually get a little trap and a short right there, but that's still at 5 o'clock or something. And it works on down. And where does it bounce? It bounces. It gives you a nice little trap here. It bounces, and then it tries to go back down. It breaks lower, bounces right off that, and turns and goes right out the other side. We're probably heading back to here, and we may head back up to this high. So as soon as if the fact that it went lower and then went straight out the other side all on the same bar, I'd have a stop right there. Otherwise, you might have let it break above this bar, or when it broke above this one, you might have tried to even get a little further back, but I think you just need to have a stop right there, buy stop. But you could have, it would have come all the way back to maybe right here and filled you when it came back here, and you could have got another chance to get in. Notice the, we come off the bottom, we pull back, but it's right into the EMA there. I don't trust that one. I think you're better off to wait and see what happens. The next leg goes all the way up, and it turns down. And it's tempting to go short right there, but I wouldn't, because you've got this trend line working up. You can see right there. You don't have any break of it yet. But also, you'd run through, so it may go on through again. And when you get the failed second entry short there, notice how it pushes through the EMA, pulls back, it bounces right off that trend line again. Look how bullish that bar is. Normally I'd say you got to be careful going long into that, but you can tell by this point, I don't have my other line up here, but by this point it is a midline, and there you can play them a little different. So I like going long on that one, expecting it to at least make it to here, but it shoots right on through there. It doesn't even hardly hesitate. Pulls back, tests that trend line, that upper area again, right where that last close was, closes inside, and look at that bullish bar. The only reason this one is not blue is because you don't have a lot of room to get out before that high, and that's the high of the day now. So you got to be careful going long there. What I would do is let it break above this bar, the little doji, and drop a limit order, but I really don't like that one, so I'd really want it to break above this one and then try to get in, and you really just couldn't have got in with enough ticks to fit the two, or to be able to get out within 4 ticks by reaching that top. So it's a little aggressive. Notice it doesn't make it to the top this time, and we kind of overshot there too, so that's something else to be worried about. Then we undershoot right here, and you get another little bounce, but I don't trust that one because we're just going sideways. We didn't get to the other side. There's a doji in there. There's at least 3 bars in a doji. I don't trust that one. It would have worked, but you're really risking it there. And then we finally get a break here. Notice the little trend channel coming down. I'm just waiting on a failed second entry long here and the possible reversal, and you do get one here, but it breaks that little channel, goes up, and where does it turn down? Right there. Look how bearish. I like that one. I really thought it might run on back down there, but it doesn't. It just bounces again. That signal bar is not very good, and by the time you get this one, you're almost back to these lows here, so I don't like it. And you can see we got a little trading range here now, and this is a little failed break lower. You don't have a very good signal bar, so I don't like that one. If you'd had a nice bullish signal bar here, I'd say this would probably be blue, but because it's not, it's a little bit aggressive. But you do have your break of this channel and 2 legs to a new low too, so that's another reason to like it. And it does work, but it's just not a very good setup, so you got to be leery of it. And then where does it find resistance? Right off those highs again. That's a fair, even though it looks like a doji, it closes way down here, 1 tick off the low. That's a fairly bearish bar. Go short there, and it's right off that trend line too. Of course, you don't know exactly where that trend line is yet, because you could actually move it around a little bit. But when it closes inside here and here, then you feel pretty confident that's where it's at. So I like adding on here. Look how bearish that one is again, right off that trend line, and notice how we're working down, and it's pretty bearish. So, but when you make this, and when this takes off and keeps going, that's really where your downtrend started. So I like looking for another channel there, and there is another much tighter two-tiered channel, and this is really all you needed all day. Once this trade triggered here, the red or brownish channel really didn't help you anymore. It was a little or no use. Um, so really you needed to find this blue one. I'm just going to remove the red one now that we've talked about, just to kind of clear it up and make things. I'm going to take these off too, just to make it a little more clear to see what's going on. I'm going to leave that one because that one's critical when we come back down. But notice how we're moving down, and there's short-term trend lines in here. There's one working down there. You get a break, a new low, and then you get a correction. You actually get two legs down, and then it corrects, and then you get another one going. So there's also a lot of resistance right across there. This was actually where we get back into the original trend channel, I think. So, but anyway, we're working down. I really don't like any of these setups. We're way away from the EMA here, but we have no break of this, and it's not exactly clear where this line may be yet. So it's not clear if that's an overshoot or whatever. It turns out it is, but at that point you don't know if it's just not bouncing off the trend line there. But look at the little short-term trend line coming up. You get a close outside, move to a new high. Look at that bearish. That's a second entry short, very bearish. It's also a little failed, or it's not really a failed break higher. It is, but it's more like a trap because look how bullish that is, and people don't know any better, and they go long and they get trapped. It's because there's a nice bar there, and they're trying to pick bottoms. And you want to jump on that one because you know it's going to, and you can see how fast it moves. Look how it jumps right over that, it kind of gaps right there where the midline is. It actually pulls back here and gives you another chance to enter, but it's right into that low. And so I don't think it would have worked, but next time it won't work. So, but when it pulls back here and gives you the failed second entry long, and it's right off the midline, I like going short now. And by this time, you should be able to find that midline because you can see where it's turning down right across those lines there. And when it comes back, and then it comes back again and turns down right off those highs, right off that midline. Really, it's a real small, low-risk bar. It looks like it's going to end up being a trap, but it doesn't. It just keeps going. And I like entering again here because you got a new low, pull back first entry, pull back second entry. It's not the best bar in the world, bearish wise. I usually like a better signal bar than that. But when you've tested that line and that EMA and that midline that many times and it keeps holding, we're going lower, and it drops on down this time. Then you get a correction here, close outside, move to a new high. You really could have considered entering here as well, but it wasn't quite back to the trend line yet. I guess it could have been because you could have drawn it more like that at the time, but generally it's off the high of this first bar. But I wasn't sure about that entry right there. It probably could be green, and it's close to being red. I'm gonna go ahead and make it green because some people are probably gonna say, hey, I would have liked to have entered there. What's wrong with it? Really, there's nothing wrong with it other than we weren't quite back to the EMA, and we didn't go lower here. We're starting to find a higher support. But when it tries to go lower and gives you this next entry, and it's right off the trend line, and this is about the same signal bar as that one, really. I like going short right there. And that time it drops all the way down, comes back right off that trend line again. And look at that real small signal bar, very low risk. It's a lower high. Enter there, and it's kind of a repeat pattern from right here. kind of going sideways, and then it turns down. Look at that one, just going, and the bottom falls out of that one. This right here was a really nice trade, because runners are, you're sure to get runners. Several of these there were runners on them though, but this one just straight down. And there's a trend line. Oops. Working right down through there. And you get a close outside and 2 legs down and it bounces. You might have considered even entering here, but we're so far away from the EMA. It does come off the midline. We aren't quite down to the lows yet. We haven't had a break yet. So you could probably even make an argument for that one being green. So I'll mark it. It's fairly bearish bar. There's not a lot of room to get out here though. You might let it break lower and let it bounce a little bit and see if you can get in with a limit order. But then we're working up, and it turns down right off the original channels support line. Now it's acting as resistance, and you got a channel working up here. You got to break really early, but when that one closed back inside of it, I wasn't sure that it wasn't down here, and you really couldn't verify where it was until you got another close or two up here, and by that time you're heading up, so you better wait. But because you did get a close outside, I like going short right there. It's aggressive because you could argue that this is a little lower, but you can see we're not touching here. So I'm really not sure exactly where it's at. I like it right there. I think it fits better right there, other than you got the early break. And but it's we're just way overdone here, so it comes back to the trend line. And if you did enter there, well, it's going more sideways. Another thing to consider is it's going more sideways there, and that's a reason not to enter there. A lot of times you can't see this stuff without a really keen eye without putting it on here. And you can see we're going sideways. But that would lead you to believe that, hey, maybe this is a failed break higher. So that's another reason to consider that one. But it just turns down, bounces off of it, and goes straight higher. I don't see any, there's no reason to go long. But when it comes back to the key entry point, and breaks out right there, I like going short. I really like waiting on this bar and letting it break lower, and then dropping your limit sell order right there where you would have got, or actually I'm sorry, right here where you would have gotten filled on this one, and it would have come back and gotten you and then dropped on down. And then it bounces, pushes outside again. Look how bearish, makes a lower high, big bearish bar. We're looking for a new low still. And again, the bottom just drops out of it. And then we bounce back. Notice how we don't get down there. We've got the break. We don't get that back down here. And we're coming up. We get a close outside, but we really don't get a setup until we get right back into these lows. And almost all those shorts would have failed. You might have gone, the only long that I see I might have taken that has a decent signal bar is that one. So if you'd gone long there, it would have worked. So you might have gone long after those breaks, but we're still making lower highs, so I wouldn't risk it. I'm not even going to mark it green, but that would be the only place that you might consider going long. This is a nice bullish bar, but it's right back into the highs and the trend line, and you might get another push like we did. It kept pushing, and it probably trapped a bunch of shorts, and then they bounced it, and it was up all the rest of the afternoon into the close. So yeah, there are lots of trades there. Again, you only need 2 or 3 of these a day to make a good living. So, I used to think, hey, you got a trade and you just take all the trades you see. But then when you really learn what's going on, you wait on them to come back to the key entry points, and then you don't have. Just notice where the key entry points are. This trend line working down, and if you just went short on Any one of those pullbacks to it, even these, you probably would have made money. And the other key entry points, look at this trend line. If you just bought any pullback to that trend line, you would have made money. The support across here, this is key entry. If you'd have bought any pullback or bounce off of that line, you'd have made money. Here's the other key entry point, the resistance. If you'd have sold any touch of that line up there, you'd have made money. Here's another one. This was a key entry point because there was resistance all the way across there. If you'd have sold any one of those, the only one that probably would have failed was that one right there, because you came back and make a higher high there. But you got the trend line working up, and it followed the trend line rules. It tried to go higher and then failed and went lower. So you'd had one failure right there, most likely. Otherwise, every one of those would have made money if you'd have sold any turn down off that trend, off that resistance line, that key entry point. So hope that's clear. But yeah, nice trend down for most of the day, but in the end, we closed almost unchanged. And it's a crazy market. It's the market that won't quit. It gets beat up occasionally, but it always comes back strong. And one day it may not, but my experience over the years is it always comes back. And when it finds that point where people perceive that it's a value and they start rolling in and those shorts start exiting and the public starts buying and buying it up as well, it takes off like a rocket and you get some really big rallies. So anyway, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to wrap it up for today, wrap it up for the week. Hope you had a good trading week. Hope you had a good 4th of July holiday as well. We'll be back again to do it Monday, but I'm done for today. I'll see you Monday. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.